Hey Hunter, hey Eric, how you doing? Hey Sans, what's up? Good to see you. Hey Unicorn, good to see you. Sorry, it's so late. I just, Hey Kafer, what's up? Yeah, sorry it's so late. I did want to get a stream out this weekend. I've been wanting to, honestly. Hey Benny. Um, I've been wanting to. I've just been busy and I don't know. Sometimes I put things off and I want to leave my evenings for just whatever, but I don't have much to do on an official time frame tomorrow, so it doesn't really matter when I go to bed, so might as well, right? Thank you all for coming out, by the way. I appreciate seeing, what, like 6 different people here? It's good to see. How was Mass? Um, it was good. I saw some faces that I recognized that haven't been there previously. Like from last fall. So that was good to see. And I guess I was completely wrong about the student body. Um, Father mentioned that it was like 140 something people signed up for the census. 140 students. I guess they just all go to the Sunday mass, and not the Saturday one. So that was very good to hear, actually. Um, so I guess I'm just in the extremely small minority that goes to the Saturday mass. Um, but yeah, apparently there's a vibrant little Catholic community on campus. That's good. Yeah, that does make sense. I just figured it would have been a slightly larger portion that went to the Saturday one, but I don't know. It's good. It's good stuff though. I'm very happy to hear that. Um, so yeah, a little bit of good news. Should probably check the Discord for messages about potentially going to mass tomorrow. I wouldn't want to miss any of that. Uh, doesn't look like there's been any small group stuff, general stuff. Yeah, no, not really. Okay. Is a chapel channel if you want to make a post about it? Yeah, I guess I could. I mean, hello Knox, by the way. Good to see you. I made 8 videos on my channel today. Hey, good for you. I have a short I want to put out. I got the footage for it last night. Um, Eric was there. We went to Walmart. We did some some shenanigans were had, and I probably should get it out either tonight or early tomorrow, for it to still like make sense. It's relevant to week 1 of football, and it won't be as relevant if I wait to post it. So we'll see what happens, but I might not. It's sort of someone already did it, and I kind of copied it. So I don't know. We'll see. But thank you all for being here, man. I appreciate it. Always makes me happy to see people come to stuff that's not, you know. Do I even bother saying it? um, yeah, it's been almost a month since since the last Grow Garden stream, and it's been I don't want to say it's been a good month, but it's Well, I appreciate that, Unicorn. I do. I appreciate the people who show up and say hello. It means a lot, you know. I was sort of leaning towards making this kind of viewer-led, so if you guys have anything you want to talk about, throw it out there and we can chat about it. Hello, Gamer Melon. A month? Wait, it's been that long? Pretty close, I think. All of the big donations are more than 28 days ago at this point. I guess I can... But I know, it does... It does seem like a month is a really long time for, it doesn't quite feel like it's been that long. Yeah, last Grow Garden stream was August 18th, so yeah, almost a month. And it was a very short 42-minute stream. Read the Bible? We could do that. Be down for that. In school for almost a month? Wild. I wish I'd been in school for almost a month. I'd be closer to graduation. Nah, we're chilling. About 2.5 weeks into the year for me. This week was a doozy, man. This week was, This week was, one of the weeks of all time. For sure. And every day it seemed like, surely today I'll get a break. Surely today I'll get some time to myself. Surely today things will even out and settle down a little bit. And they just didn't. Random girl got stabbed in a subway and no one cared. Saw that. Yep. Mm-hmm. One of several terrible things that happened this week in the world. Yeah, Monday was... Maybe I'll get into it in a bit. That was the day before the thing that people did care about. Yes, I believe so, because, I guess I'll kind of answer Unicorn's question by responding to this. Before his talk at the university, I believe, Charlie Kirk made a TikTok about it, and was just like, yeah, so, this happened, this is terrible, and, the stuff regarding that situation. I just saw it a couple minutes ago. But I saw the TikTok, not the actual thing that happened. I don't know if there's video of that. Yeah, I believe you're correct on that, Eric. Yeah. In a lot of different ways, this week was a hard week. It was a hard week this week. Half of it was, school related, and then the other half was very not school related. You guys know I don't like to throw pity parties and talk about my problems on here, but I mean, I used the community tab. Goodness gracious, when do I ever use the community tab? I used it twice in one day. When does that ever happen? Yeah, I don't know how much I should say. Because I don't know how much people would actually want to listen to. But beginning to end, this was a tough week. Really tough week. Sure, it was a tough week for a lot of people. I appreciate that, Unicorn, but I know not everybody feels that way, so I don't want to bore anyone. But I mean, if people were cool with it, then I guess I could yap a little bit. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. More than you know. Yeah, Benny, I'm okay. It's just, I don't know, something weird happens. Just like a kind of a switch flipped this week. And I don't think I've recovered. It's kind of hard to explain, but people have made the point that this tragedy should motivate us to take positive action for what we believe. Any idea what that action might look like? That's a great question. I mean, I think increased security, for one. Especially in situations where there's a visiting speaker, whether it's a college campus or a public venue or whatever it happens to be. I think increased security, and perimeter scanning and stuff like that is part of it. I think see there's sort of a line I'm not sure if I'm ready to cross on this specific issue. You know what? Screw it. I don't care. Maybe I'll get to that later. It was like more on an individual level. What should you or I do differently? Well, that's an interesting question. I think the best thing that an individual can do is keep talking about it. Don't let this fade away. Because if people don't shut up about it, then things have to change. And I don't necessarily just mean this situation, because I don't want anyone to... I want to be clear that this isn't a situation that takes any kind of precedence over any other similar situation. Um, but, I think it's definitely difficult because it's a situation where, as an individual, you feel kind of powerless. Like, how much do I really relate to this, and what could I potentially do about it? Like, because the difficult thing is, I'm not going to sit here and say, be less public about your beliefs. I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, don't stand up for what you believe in and exercise your right to free speech. I'm not going to say that. Because while maybe that might increase the chances of preserving your life, I'm not going to do that. Not that I have any kind of influence or anything, but I think that was the whole idea behind this, is trying to suppress, people who have a certain viewpoint and, you know, prevent them from sharing what they believe. And that's, something that obviously that can't stand. That's the beautiful thing about this country, is the ability to say what you believe and not face punishment for it. At least you're not supposed to. Obviously, that was not the case here. But yeah, individually, I think just it's difficult. It's difficult because as an individual, you feel kind of powerless. Like, I guess the best way to think about it would be, if something like this had a chance of happening where I am, what could I do about it? It's difficult. I mean, no one from my university has put out any kind of statement regarding what happened, or anything of that nature, or like, are they stepping up security measures to make sure something like this doesn't happen in the event that, a similar type of event were to take place? Normally, in a major event like this, especially surrounding politics, I would expect some kind of statement from staff at the university, but that hasn't happened. Obviously, it's not directly related to them, but this happened on a college campus. I mean, no, I agree. I just figured, the fact that this did happen on a college campus is, I don't know. But no, it's a, frankly, just conceptually, forget about individually who was involved and look at it objectively for what happened. A 31-year-old man with a wife and kids to go back to was assassinated because, not even because he was trying to force his beliefs on others, not even because He was trying to be oppressive. He welcomed debate. He welcomed debate in an attempt to promote his beliefs and share what he believed to be the truth. To try and, at least from his perspective, make this country a better place. And I know that not everyone sees what he was doing in that way. I myself have some problems with, some of the stances that he took, but it fundamentally goes against what we should stand for as a nation. And that is defending our constitutional rights. And right at the top of that list is free speech. And love him or hate him, he's allowed to have his opinions. He's allowed to stand up for what he believes in. He's allowed to disagree with people. Now, if he starts physically hurting or threatening other people, then that's a different story. But to my knowledge, he didn't do that. It's the first time in my life where I've looked at the Constitution and I've been like, do I still have my First Amendment rights? Obviously, I'm not at that level of influence, but does everyone still have that First Amendment right? Are there people who no longer have their First Amendment right to free speech because of the stances that they take, because of their views? And that's a scary thought. That's a very scary thought. Have a good night, Unicorn. Thank you for being here. If they don't want us to speak, we should speak harder. I agree. I think this is going to have the opposite effect that the shooter wanted. I think that people are going to be more outspoken because they see this for the injustice that it is. And they say, this can't stand. And I'm going to continue to share my beliefs. And I'm going to continue to state what I believe in because I have that right under the First Amendment and nobody's going to stop me. And I think that's powerful. Especially when you have someone of influence like that. Cutting off the head isn't going to completely make the whole idea go away, He drew in the crowds he drew in for a reason, because there's a lot of people who share his views. There's a lot of people who agree with him on a lot of points. So, yeah, I agree. I think this is just going to lead to more people speaking up about what they believe in and, you know, not lying down, not shutting up, and being like, yeah, you know what? This is not just going to fade out of public consciousness because I'm not going to let it fade out of public consciousness. But obviously, a disgusting and awful situation from all points of view. From the act itself to the people who witnessed it to the family that he leaves behind to some of the reactions. And I saw all manner of reactions to the event. Some of them were very defiant, very, this is an injustice, they're not going to stop us, we're going to continue to share our beliefs and fight for what we believe in. You know, this is just going to give us more strength to and courage to make this happen. There were people that said, I don't necessarily agree with his stances or what he stood for, but objectively, a father and a husband was killed for exercising his right to free speech, and that is unacceptable. And then there were the people who celebrated it. And that wasn't just an exaggerated thing where people were like, oh, if you're celebrating this, you're awful, when nobody was actually celebrating it. There were people who were celebrating it. I saw several of them. Just going through Instagram stories, I saw several people who were genuinely happy that this happened. I saw several people who made very blanket statements about, this was such a good thing that happened. If you disagree, you're a fascist and you should unfollow me. Stuff like that. I did unfollow someone. I forget who it was. But just the stance they took on things was disgusting, and I said, you know what, I want no part of that. And by the way, if somebody posts something like that and you unfollow them, you're not proving them right. You're disagreeing. And you're saying, I don't like this stance, I don't like this viewpoint, I think it's gross, I think it's disgusting, and I don't want to be subjected to that. And that's okay. But there was definitely a range of reactions, and I don't think, as I guess I should sort of state my personal state. I was not the biggest fan of his, to be honest. I knew of him, and I had a general, alignment. I don't know if that's the right word. I lean right. I'm a Christian. I think some of the things he said were a little extreme, and there were some stances I definitely disagreed with. But I respected what he stood for as a man of God and a Christian man and a family man and someone who wanted to bring back good, faithful, honest, loving Christian values to the country and sort of That's something I feel strongly about. The atomic family and God first, things like that. Life beginning at conception, things like that. That's stuff I feel very strongly about. Um, like I said, there were some stances that I didn't necessarily agree with. And overall, I had a somewhat, my impression of him was like, I wasn't the biggest fan overall. Like I thought on some things he was a little extreme and maybe a bit more on the political side than the religious side, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Um, so I wasn't the biggest fan of his in the whole world. Um, and I say that not to, bring my personal feelings into it or take a stance on it or anything. I say that just to sort of paint the picture of how much this affected me. Because since this happened on Wednesday, like I said, it's almost like a switch flipped in my brain. Like, I've been. I think Benny said something similar before, yeah. For some reason, I felt broken like a family member or something. I shared a similar feeling. Maybe not to the extent of a family member, but I get the feeling. You know, this was significant, because regardless of my personal views, this was a 31-year-old Christian man who I aligned with on a lot of issues, and was killed for speaking up for what he believed in. And regardless of your affiliation, if this was a Democrat, it doesn't change the fact that this was an innocent person who was unjustly killed for exercising their rights. Their stance doesn't matter. Their their views kind of don't change the fact that they're a human being and that they were just doing what the Constitution gave them the ability to do and doing what they felt strongly about and what they were standing up for. None of that changes based off of, their viewpoints or whatever. So and as more time went on, I initially had a very positive impression of him, and then sort of less so, because again, I felt he leaned too far into politics and less into religion. But then again, last week or so, I've been seeing clips online. I was sort of, picking back up a little bit. But again, that's sort of. I only mention that to compare it to how drastically this affected me for the rest of the week. Like, I wasn't a diehard. I wasn't someone who worshipped this guy or was the biggest fan of this guy in any respect. And it really, really stuck with me, and it really affected me more than I would have expected. You may not agree with the Second Amendment position, but if that many people condone this kind of political violence, it seems like all the more reason we should be equipped for self-defense. I don't just necessarily disagree, but again, the key word there is self-defense. That's my whole kind of problem with it, is I don't have a problem with being equipped for self-defense. I have a problem with not using that for self-defense and doing other things with it. And I suspect that a lot of people, I can't necessarily confirm it, but I suspect that a lot of people share that viewpoint. And that's why there's been such debate over gun control. Because in theory, I see nothing wrong with bearing arms in self-defense. Protecting your family, protecting your property. I don't see an issue with that. If someone threatens your life, God forbid you're ever put in that situation. I thought a while back, well, actually one of the last nights before I came back to school, I was thinking, if I ever owned a firearm, which I won't, I will probably never own a firearm. And I can share why in a bit. But if, God forbid, I was ever in a position, could I use a firearm in self-defense? Could I bring myself to use a firearm in self-defense? And honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I could. I'd like to think yes I would, but I also would think it would haunt me for the rest of my days. But I don't have an issue with the idea of bearing arms in self-defense. What I have an issue with, and what I suspect most people have an issue with, is when it's exploited and not used for self-defense. And we get situations like Denver, or name any school shooting, Columbine, Sandy Hook. I mean, you name it, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot to name. This went from an extraordinarily rare occurrence that was a horrific tragedy whenever you saw it on the news to something that happens seemingly every couple of weeks. And it's absolutely disgusting. And because it just so happened to take place at the same time, it's been getting significantly less coverage. That's why I wanted to make a community post about it, because I didn't want people to think, he's only talking about the Charlie Kirk shooting, he's not talking about this other thing. I saw it. That's why I wanted to make a post about it. Because I saw far more posts about Charlie Kirk than I did about that school shooting. And that's just as disgusting. Lives were taken, at least one. Charlie Kirk isn't a more valuable human being than anybody else who loses their life, right? He's not more valuable, he's not less valuable. It's awful. It's terrible. That's a good way to put it. The Second Amendment doesn't include the right to murder. No, it doesn't. I think people know that, but they exploit the law for their own gain, because it's very hard to regulate what somebody does with a firearm once they own it. And I mean, if you go back a little bit further, go back a few more weeks, you had the shooting at the church in Minneapolis. That was another one that really shook me, because it was a Catholic church. An 8-year-old and a 10-year-old now never have the chance to grow up Can't imagine how their families feel. Absolutely horrific. Fundamentally, what it comes down to is we live in a broken world. We live in a very broken world. Sin is rampant. It's normal. It's encouraged. And the world needs Jesus more than it ever has. In so many different ways. And that was a big part of what Charlie Kirk believed, you know? The truth, the authenticity of the Bible, the importance of faith and putting God first. I had a lot of respect for him for that. I used to hate talking about politics, but the more I grow up, the more I realize it's kind of inevitable, and I kind of can't stay silent about a lot of things that are big political issues because they relate heavily to my faith. And if I'm not going to stay silent about my faith, then I can't stay silent about those topics. So, maybe it is an uncomfortable conversation, but so what? I'm not going to stop talking about what I believe in. Nobody should. Whether you agree with a certain viewpoint or not. You're American and you have the right to express your beliefs. So regardless of your viewpoint, you should be able to express that right. Express your beliefs. That's the bigger fundamental issue. Yes, I'm absolutely hurt and shook that it was a Christian family man who was seeking to try and bring a lot of the values that I hold dear back to this country. But regardless of your viewpoint, I think the bigger issue at hand here is that an innocent life was taken for expressing his beliefs and for exercising his natural right to speak freely. That's the bigger problem with the whole situation. It's not about who Charlie Kirk was. It's about what Charlie Kirk was doing fundamentally, which was exercising his First Amendment right. The important thing is that we should engage in politics only insofar as concerns our Christian faith. I agree. I absolutely agree. And it's important to take a Christian stance on politics and not a political stance on Christianity. And there's a very big difference, right? Because I think Christianity has sort of become known as like the religion of the right, you know, the Republican religion. And that's a problem and something that I very much dislike, because Christianity is for everyone. That's the point. You know, the point is everyone should know God's love. Everyone should know God's mercy and forgiveness. Everyone should have a relationship with God regardless of your gender, race, political party, or anything else. So I hate that Christianity has kind of become known as the religion of, the Republicans or the far right, because it's being weaponized as this political thing when, don't get me wrong, Christianity inherently is political. Like, Jesus upset the political leaders of his day with the very way that he lived his life. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that, that would be denying the gospel, right? But I agree that we need to approach it carefully. We need to not get carried away. We need to not let ourselves get swept up in the importance of being right and winning the argument, I guess. Because there's a lot of overlap on issues of faith and politics. But they need to be addressed from a Christian perspective and with the love and care that comes from Christianity. Good night, Hunter. Thank you for being here. We may believe that a free market system is the best way to structure the economy, but that's not a tenet of the faith, and we can't let it take the place of one. Right. But a tenet of the faith is the protection of life from conception until natural death. And that is something that very closely intertwines with politics. There's strong debate over when life begins. Christians adamantly believe that life begins at conception, not at birth, and that abortion is murder. Obviously, that is a very, very fiery political topic, especially with this current administration. See, again, murder is not a right. Precisely. Abortion is murder. Murder is not only illegal, but also against the original 10 Commandments and a mortal sin. And there's plenty of debates you can go into on the topic about specific cases and justification and this and that, and the simple answer from a Christian perspective is that it is never okay to take a life in that way. Because it is an innocent child. It has no way to defend itself. It is a life at the end of the day. And it should not be taken in that way for any reason. Regardless of circumstance, it's never okay to murder, right? I think that's a fair statement to say. Notice I said murder, not kill, right? There's a difference. It's never okay to murder. That's why the commandment is, everyone has it down as thou shalt not kill, but in the gospel Jesus says thou shalt not murder. Right? That's the commandment. The commandment is thou shalt not murder. So if abortion is murder, then abortion is not okay. In theory, there could be life-saving treatments like chemotherapy that kill the baby as a side effect, but that can never be the intention. And right, the idea with that is intention. Intention is the key word there. The intentional killing of an innocent is murder. The intentional killing of someone who does not deserve it, or has done no wrong, or not provoked you in any way, or not in a sort of, again, just going back to probably the easiest way to say it, innocent, that's murder. That's what murder is. But it comes down to intent, The intent is, I'm going to take this person's life. And I'm not a lawyer or anything, so the specifics of law and everything with what is classified as murder is not a conversation that I can have in good faith and then give you a good, clear definition on. But I think simply it's the intentional killing of an innocent. Or at least that's the way I see it. But yes, it comes down to intent. Absolutely. But yes, that's a very, debated topic. Christians have a very firm stance. A lot of people disagree. Not necessarily from a religious perspective, but just from I don't know if it's necessarily a political perspective either. It's just they have different beliefs about when life begins, and therefore they say that it's not murder because it's not a child yet. But I believe scientifically it does have all the characteristics of a living thing. So even from a not necessarily a religious perspective, but that's sort of not super relevant for me necessarily, because I have my religious stance. But anyway, the whole reason I bring this up is there are topics and beliefs of Christianity that are very political, or have become very political. So it's not feasible to stay out of politics necessarily as a Christian. We are instructed to be prepared to defend what we believe. So it's not feasible to just kind of sit by the wayside and tell everybody to love each other. That doesn't really get things done, unfortunately. We need to be living, breathing proof of the love of God. We need to be the love of God to each other. And that goes for everybody, regardless of political affiliation or anything else. That just goes for everyone. We are called to be Christ to one another. There's a priest at my home parish who he never really writes homilies. He just kind of, I guess, wings it to an extent. But all of his homilies always go back to a central theme of being Christ to one another. And sort of the idea of we have received the gift of salvation from Christ, and we are now called to show his love to one another. It's a call. It's what we are told to do. It's an instruction. It's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's not about winning the argument. It's not about any of that stuff. Yes, we're called to defend what we believe, but we can do so in a way that is constructive and shows love, not hatred. And it's difficult, especially in a world that's drifting further and further away from God, but Jesus never said the path was going to be easy. In fact, he said the world is going to hate us because it hated him first. So we should not expect it to be easy. But, I've always sort of thought about, what would be if I had to pick a way to go out, which way would I want to go? I don't think there's any better way to go out than as a martyr, Because you're living your faith down to the final breath and choosing to stay true to your faith over continuing to live, making the fundamental decision to give up the most precious and fundamental thing that you have as a human being, which is your ability to wake up and breathe every single day. Because you so strongly believe what you believe that you're willing to sacrifice that. No one wants to be a martyr, right? Obviously, no one wants to be persecuted for their faith. But obviously, if I had to pick a way to go, I'd probably want to go in my sleep, right? But, martyrdom is a very admirable way to go because you're living your faith until the end. And maybe we should switch the topic to something lighter. I'm sorry. I don't know. I've been thinking a lot. If you haven't been able to tell, I've been thinking a lot over the past couple of days, and I could tell a story actually. Maybe that would lighten things up a little bit. I could tell a story of something that happened earlier today. Going in sleep sounds nice. We pray that God will give us the strength to face martyrdom if the situation called, since it sounds pretty damn not nice. I agree. Sounds not nice. Obviously your life's getting cut short and it's probably going to be pretty painful. But no, I think that's absolutely the right way to put it. We pray that if we're ever put in that position, we have the courage to be willing to accept that fate and keep our faith. Say, no obstacle's going to stop me from believing what I believe. But yeah, again, I'm not necessarily saying that I want to be a martyr, right? I'm just saying, faced with that decision, I guess I would want to make that choice. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm not wording this well. But, in terms of, the most prideful, the most proud way I could pass on, I guess that's the way I could die that I would have the most pride in. That and maybe, please do not want to be a martyr. No, I do not seek death, right? Maybe death to self, but I do not seek to be killed for my beliefs. I do not seek that. I am fortunate enough to live in this country where I am able to express my beliefs and not be afraid of persecution. Um, Maybe I'm not wording this well. Maybe the way you put it is better. You know, just one of the 7 million thoughts that runs through my head every single day about. I don't know. I'm probably not wording this well, but yeah, I don't seek death, but I'm not saying that would be a cool or fun way to die, but I've worded that really bad. I'm sorry. Um, anyway, my story that I was going to tell. So, for some background context, excuse my yawn. For some background context, I have an agreement with my mother that I get $70 a week to spend on delivery, specifically on Uber Eats, um, because I'm on a limited meal plan. I believe I have 12 per week. So for the rest of it, we had an agreement that, with the money that my parents save by not getting me more meal swipes, that money, or at least some of that money, could go into kind of a fund to get me better food. um, so I'm always looking for the best ways to stretch that $70 as much as possible. And this one restaurant that I will not name because, it might give away my location, but this restaurant I will not name. They've been doing buy one get one gyros for a while, and the gyros are delicious. But they also do buy one get one 20-piece bone-in wings for $27.99. Now, wing prices have gone up crazy in the past couple of years. So 20 wings for like $28 is really good. 40 wings for $28 is insane. That's for the type of food that it is, it's very, very good. So, I was looking at that and I was like, okay, that seems like good value. They're listed as jumbo wings, right? There's probably a good amount of meat on the bones. I can probably get at least 2 to 3 meals out of that, even if I'm like crazy hungry. But then I go to check out and the order total is $40. And I'm like, hold on a minute. So there was $11 in additional fees. It was like 84 cents in tax. And then $11 in additional fees. And I'm like, I don't want to pay $11 in additional fees. That's almost half of the price of the wings. I don't want to do that. So I'm like, but Uber Eats offers an option. If you don't want to pay the fees, you can drive to the restaurant and pick up the order yourself. And it said the restaurant was like within 10 miles of me. And I was like, okay, maybe that's like a 20-minute drive up, 20-minute drive back, something like that. I can do that for saving $11, right? So I drive probably 20-25 minutes to this restaurant. And I was hoping beyond hope that they would have a parking lot. They did not. It is in a very large city that I will not name. Um, One of those types of things where you just have store, like wall to wall next to each other across entire city blocks. There's cars lining both sides of the streets. There's no parking signs everywhere. And I mean, these streets are lined. There's residential neighborhoods are lined with cars. Parking lots are full. Like, it's a absolute disaster. I probably did like 5 laps around the block that has this restaurant on it, hoping, praying, literally praying to Jesus that a spot would open up. I end up pulling into this parking lot that's like $6 parking. I'm like, screw it. I've done 5-6 laps at this point. I'm starting to panic and freak out that my food's sitting in there getting cold. Like, there's always somebody behind me whenever I make a turn, so I can't just like stop and try and get my bearings. I'm constantly moving. So I pull into this parking lot. It's like $6 parking. I go to the machine. I hit the button to start and it says, "Machine out of service, talk to representative." I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So I get back in my car. I start doing more laps. I'm taking side streets. I'm going here and there and doing circles, and it's a mess. It's an absolute disaster. I mean, it got to a point where I was almost in tears. Like, I'm not even kidding. I was almost in tears. Just trying to find a parking spot, because the last thing I wanted to do was park somewhere at the wrong time where I wasn't supposed to and get a ticket, and $11 in fees turns into a $50 parking ticket, right? And then I'm coming around one of my laps. Quite literally, I am praying to Jesus while this is happening. I am praying for a parking spot. And I see probably enough space for 2 or 3 car lengths at the end of the block near the restaurant. And I'm like, I can't pull a K-turn here. That is completely not okay. Let me go up to the next place that I can make a left, loop around, get going in the direction where the spots are, and pray to God that there is at least one spot left by the time I get there. So I do the loop, I come back around, I'm going the other way, and there's spots open. And I'm talking where I pulled in, I get out of my car, I go over to the sidewalk, door to the restaurant is right there. I walk in, I pick up my food, I get straight back in my car, and I get the heck out of there. They say God's not real. I'm telling you, He works in ways that you would not even begin to understand. And yes, I do fully believe that this was an act of God. Because I probably did 8 laps around the same, 3 blocks, praying I could find a parking spot that wasn't going to get me a ticket, or force me to put my hazards on and go sprint 3 blocks to the restaurant and hope my car didn't get stolen. But it worked out, and I now have, I think I still have 28 wings in my fridge. So, I would have happily paid the $11. I'll say that. To maybe describe how I was feeling. I happily would have paid the $11 to not have to do what I did. Screw the gas, screw the time it took. The emotional strain of me trying to find a parking spot to pick up my food. I would have paid the $11 to just get it delivered. Genuinely, I would have. Hello, agent. How are you? I was almost to the point of tears. it was a bad look. I called the restaurant and I said, "Hey, I have an order in there. It's 40 wings. Any way you can tell me a place that I can park to go in there and pick it up? I can't find parking." The guy was like, "Yeah, just pull up next to the restaurant, duck inside, grab it. It'll be like 2 minutes." I'm like, "Okay. If I get back around there and there's no spots, I'm parking in the bike lane." And I don't care who hates me for it. I'm parking in the bike lane, I'm picking up my food, and I'm getting out of here. I didn't have to, praise God. There were spots available, but I considered it. I was going to park in the bike lane. And not just like throw my hazards on. I was going to fully turn my car off in the bike lane and jump out and get my food. It was a bad scene. It was a real bad scene, and I'm not proud of how I reacted, but God was so gracious. And now I have plenty of wonderful chicken wings in my fridge to eat tomorrow, so I am quite grateful. Very tasty, by the way. Very, very good. And it should be able to get me through tomorrow night's dinner, which means I have extra money left over to roll into next week. So I can either use that to pay for more meals or pay for additional fees so I don't have to do that again. The last time I went and picked up my own order, it was freaking flawless. I pulled into a parking lot, I went inside, I grabbed it. It was easy. I love restaurants with parking lots. I do not like parking on the side of the road. I am incredibly paranoid whenever I park on the side of the road that no matter if there's a sign there or not, I'm going to get a ticket. I can't quite explain why. I'm incredibly paranoid about it. I got one ticket my sophomore year, and I've been paranoid about parking on the side of the road since then. It's just a thing. I don't really have a good reason for it. I really hate it. Because I'm never quite sure I can park somewhere. Forgive me while I fill up my water bottle here. I'm using tiny Poland Springs because the cap is broken on my water bottle, so the straw doesn't stay in, so the filter doesn't work. So I can't filter water, so I can only get water from certifiably clean sources until the new water bottle comes in. It's supposed to come in on Monday. Bottles, dining hall, filter stations. That is where I can get water from until Monday. So, unfortunate. But it's alright. We're surviving. Must depart for Sleepy Realm now. Understandable, you've had a long day. How was small group, by the way? I didn't ask. You've had a very long day. You cooked this morning. You saved our entire operation. We gave away tacos for 2 hours. And then you did Bible study. So you've had a long day for sure. But yes, go depart for Sleepy Realm and have good dreams. And thank you for being here and discussing with me. I do appreciate it. Well, group was great. We spent about an hour talking about the chapter and then chilled for another hour. Wonderful! What small group is meant to be. That's so great. I'm so happy to hear that. Hopefully more than a mouse will show up to my small group this week. That's not a joke, by the way. There was a rat in the room that I had my Bible study group in last week. There was a mouse. I'm trying to figure out what this is on my face. Is it just like a pattern of hair, or is like... No, it's just a pattern. I thought it might be like... No, it's just a pattern of hair. Okay. No big deal. Something else I wanted to talk about tonight. The Mario Galaxy movie. If you didn't see that, so the second Mario movie is going to be Mario Galaxy. And I mean, if you've been watching this channel for at least the last couple of months, then you probably know that I am a big fan of Mario Galaxy. So I am giga hyped. I almost PogChamped IRL when I saw the trailer. I was like, I was sitting in class. I was like, I was like, no shot. That's insane. So yeah, that's pretty cool. We're getting a Mario Galaxy movie. I hope it's not. It's gonna be childish though. Like, Galaxy is so mature for a Mario game. Like, or it just seems that way. Like, I don't know. It seems very, like, black holes, fate of the universe, cycle of life, kind of very mature, darker kind of topics. I hope they don't make it too, like, childish, but they kind of have to. But I don't know. Evil Chris Pratt as Cosmic Mario confirmed. We will be there. We will be there for it. And then shortly after, they will announce the FNAF 3 movie. I don't know. FNAF 2 movie comes out on my birthday. I will likely not be seeing it until I come home. Maybe Miyoshi and Gingy will be able to go see it. Gingy comes home for Christmas, so perhaps then. It's funny, those are like two of maybe 3 movies I've seen in the past, like, I don't know. Actually, no. 4? I've seen like 4 movies in the past 2 years. First Mario movie, first FNAF movie, Despicable Me 4, and the Minecraft movie. I swear those are like the only 4 movies I've seen in the last like couple years. Like, I don't really watch movies. I just don't. I watched all like the mainline Avengers movies until Endgame, up through Endgame, and then I kind of stopped caring. And I did enjoy them. I got like most of the way through Iron Man 2. I don't think I finished it. I watched the original Iron Man, which is a fantastic movie, by the way. If you've never seen the original Iron Man, do yourself a favor. Go find a Google Drive link or something and go watch the original Iron Man. It is a terrific film. Just fantastic. Never really seen any of the Thor movies, but the mainline Marvel movies, like, or I guess the Avengers line movies. Avengers, Age of Ultron, Civil War, Infinity War Endgame. I saw one of the Ant-Man movies, too, years ago at this point. Hey, you been by the way? I know it's been a while since I dropped by. I've been busy with college. Hey, I don't blame you. I've been busy with college too. I haven't streamed in 2 weeks. Actually, no, that's not true. I reacted to the AJR album when it came out. Um, the Undertale Yellow stream was like 2 weeks ago. The Daily Riff is the only reason I've been consistent lately. Um, I've been a little bit of a mess. I'm gonna be honest. This was a rough week for me. Like this was a really tough week, um, for a lot of different reasons. Um, I've been productive since I got back, but I've also been kind of a mess emotionally. Um, I've been way more stressed about things than I should be, and it's taken a physical toll on me. Like, I had an assignment come out on Sunday night. I read through it. It was like 11 p.m. I wasn't going to work on it that night, but I read through it. I was like, oh, okay. Conceptually, I understand this. And we're allowed to use AI to help us with it. So I was like, okay, yeah. With, ChatGPT, I could definitely get this done, figure this out. This shouldn't be too bad. I woke up the next morning, and I mean, from like the moment I woke up to the moment I started working on it, like I woke up 9:15, started working on it probably like 2:30, 2:45. I mean, there were points where I was so stressed and worried about the assignment that I was almost physically ill. Like, it was not good. It was really, really, really not good. Like, I had no reason to be that nervous. Like, I read through it, I understood conceptually what I had to do, and I was allowed to use AI to help me. I had no reason. And also, I had like 7, 8 days to work on it. Like, there was no reason I should have been that stressed, and I was that stressed. So, I need to. Whoa, hold on. Sorry. I need to chill out a little bit, and I think to an extent I have. Past couple days have been a little bit better. I had an assignment come out Thursday night at 11. I don't know what it is about my computer science professors and dropping assignments at 11 p.m. I really don't appreciate that they do that personally, but whatever. Um, I started working on it the next day. Worked on it a little more today. I'm not super stressed about getting it all done right away. I have plenty of time to do it. Um, I have office hours I can make all throughout the week. Like, I'm taking a much more logical approach to this one, just being like, I don't have to get it done right away. I have time to do it. I can get help. Like, I should be fine. By the way, that assignment I was stressing so much about, I finished it in like 2 hours. uh, so I had absolutely no reason to be stressed about it. But that's nothing new with me. That's just kind of how I roll sometimes. Um, but yeah, this week was a tough one. It started out really tough because of school. I had that assignment. I had maybe 20 minutes of downtime on Monday and Tuesday. 20 minutes each day where I wasn't doing something. It was I was extremely busy. Um, Wednesday I had a little more downtime, but I had office hours I needed to make, and I had a presentation to go to, so I still didn't have as much downtime as I would have liked on a day when I have no classes. And then obviously Charlie Kirk got shot, and that really messed with me for honestly the rest of the week. I'm still trying to get out of the mental funk that put me in. Thursday I had another presentation to make, but I also had my two major classes that I really need to pay attention in and take notes in. So I had 4 straight hours of class. Then I had 4 straight hours of class. Then I had I chose not to go to office hours so I could get... What did I do in that hour? Or hour or two? I'm trying to remember. Did I work on stuff? I don't think I did. I think I took a break. Then I went to another presentation. Then an assignment came out while I was at the presentation. Then I went back to my room after the presentation, which was like 2 hours, and it was unbelievably boring. But I had to be there for credit. I guess I didn't technically have to be there, but I had to attend 2 for credit across the semester. I just figured I'd get the 2 out of the way early. And then I went back to my room, started working on the assignment that came out. Then the other thing came out at like 11 p.m. I started working on that yesterday. Yesterday was, I had class early, I ate lunch, I had a little bit of downtime, then I went to office hours for 2 hours, then I went to class for an hour and a half, then I went to large group gathering for my Christian organization. That went from 5:30 to 7. Then I went to Walmart with Eric. Then I came home and recorded a daily rip. Then Eric and I went to a bar and got food. I got back at like... I don't even know. Probably like... after midnight? So I had very... Don't get me wrong, I had fun with Eric and large group and everything. It was just, I didn't really have a lot of downtime. And today I didn't have a lot of downtime either. I got up. Eric and I were hosting an outreach event today for our club. So I got up. I helped Eric prepare everything. We were giving out tacos. I helped Eric prepare some stuff. I went and got a whole bunch of stuff out of this closet that is in our student union. Then I went to a different building to fill up a cooler with water and lugged that over to the union. That sucked, by the way. I basically spent the 2 hours of this outreach in soaking wet clothes. I got water all over my shirt and my pants. It was... So I was kind of in a salty mood for a lot of the outreach. But that got done at like 3 p.m. We cleaned everything up. It was like 3:30. I had church at 5. So I went back to my room. I worked on a homework assignment for like 30, 45 minutes. Chilled out for like 20. Then went to church. Then I got back from church. I ordered food. I did the whole story thing that I told earlier. Drove around in frickin' circles for 30 minutes trying to find a place to park to pick up my food. Then came back, ate my food. Then recorded a daily rip. And then finally it was 10:30. I was like, if I want to stream it all this weekend, I have to stream tonight. So I figured enough stuff happened in the world this week that either in the world or, Mario Galaxy movie trailer or stuff like that we'd have a decent amount of things to talk about tonight. But yeah, it's been a crazy busy week for me. It's funny because the first couple weeks were really, really nice. Like, my classes weren't too intense. I had a lot of downtime. My Wednesdays are off. My Tuesdays are somewhat light. And then this week, things just hit the fan. So I am praying that my Sunday will be restful. I need it so bad. I have not had, besides maybe Wednesday, I really haven't had like an easy restful day this week. I need one. So outside of some assignments I can catch up on and maybe get ahead on tomorrow. I need tomorrow. I guess today it's past midnight. I need it to be restful. I need it to be chill. Plus, now normally I do my laundry, take my trash out, that kind of stuff on Saturday. I really didn't have the time today, so I gotta do my laundry tomorrow. I gotta take my trash out tomorrow. I should probably shave tomorrow. I have a lot to do. So, I don't need any additional stuff getting in the way of, I can throw my laundry in the laundry machine or the washing machine. I can take my trash out at the same time, shave at the same time, hopefully not get assaulted by the light fixture in my bathroom this time. That's not a joke. That happened. I don't know if I've told that story yet. But yeah, I need to do multiple things at the same time to try and conserve more time to not do stuff. Because I could really use a down day to recover a little bit because it has been a wild week. Also, Yoshi's birthday was today, or yesterday, technically. So happy birthday, Yoshi. He was home with my family for it, which was very nice. But yeah, that was a nice thing. Yoshi's birthday. Yeah, I'm gonna probably chill out for a couple hours, and then I'm done for the night. I don't have anything else in me tonight, but I'll probably chill out for a few hours and hit the hay. Don't know if I'll be streaming again tomorrow. I wouldn't count on it. I'll try and be as consistent as I can be. But I'm not forcing anything. I'd like to finish Undertale Yellow at some point just because I love the game. Shout out to the recent support on the Daily Rips. You guys have been awesome. I think we're at an all-time high in subscribers right now once again, so shout out to you guys for that. And yeah, love y'all. Thank you for being here. Hope you have a great night. Everybody keep your heads up. Things are going to work out and be okay even if it doesn't look like it. God is good. God is still good at the end of the day, so things might look dark and scary, but have faith and everything will work out and be okay. Trust me. But for now, thank you all for being here. Hope you all have a wonderful night, and always remember, Jesus loves you. Peace.